This is a 2012 Mustang 3.7 V6 Cyclone. And yes, it's dirty, so please don't look at the paint. I don't want to show you something here. Little problem we've got. There's a big crack right there. Another one right out there. To this underbelly piece. And that's pretty significant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing off. And the way that you take it off, there's some bolts, or we might call them screws. They got little E to B bolt heads right there. So I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to do some more plastic welding. Pretty awesome stuff. TFPP, talc-filled polypropylene. Now you can get a better view of the damage. Alright, there's a busted point on the back side of this piece. There's the main big bust on the front. But there's a busted point on the back side of this piece. We're going to try to take care of it first. Now you can also see that it is sprung. So I'm going to have to push it back in there to where it's nearly flush. And then weld it. And then we can sort of go back to the front part and work on it. But I'm going to be clamping this in my homemade vise over here here in just a minute, and I've got to have this good and sturdy before I can work on the front part. Alright, this is kind of like working with metal. I've tacked it, I don't know how well you can see, right here, a couple places, and then one right here. It's no longer sprung, now it's down here flush where I need it to be, and now I can work on the rest of it with much more ease. That's awesome. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to heat this up. Press down into it. And the crack, the full length of this crack, I'm going to melt down into it, come back on top of it, and smooth it over. And that will pull molten parts from both sides. Look how smooth that is. Alright, well, it don't look all that smooth on the camera, but it is actually pretty smooth. It's sort of, you know, flat. And but anyways, by doing it that way, you're melting both sides of the material, and then whenever you come back over it, you're melting both of them back in together. That is my method. I'm going to be doing the rest of that way, so that you know, I don't have to film every bit of what I'm doing. I'll show you the finished product. All right, check it out. That's where it was. Wiggle it pretty good. It is bonded very well. This talc-filled polypropylene melts really, really easily and really, really fast. Okay, you might see here, I've got a gap. And this gap will not go back together. Right here is the beginning of the crack down in here, alright? So you have to run the tip of your soldering iron or plastic welding tip or whatever down in there to break that. When the plastic breaks, it will have memory, I guess you could say, of a bend or something like that from where it broke. You can remedy that by melting whatever it is that's keeping it scotched. I don't even know whether or not you can see, but yeah, well, down in that crack, there's something in there that's keeping this scotched, so that, so that it will not go down in where it needs to be. So what I'm just going to do, I'm going to run my tip down in there. See how well I can do this one-handed. Alright, I've already melted a groove down through here. I'm going to go back and just preheat it again. just a little section here, not too big. I'm gonna come back, flatten it out, and I'm digging in as I go, just like that. You see all those little cracks and crevices, then I can take the gun, heat it from the back side, and just walk it right on down. Sort of feather it in toward the middle. And keep that up as you go, and you know, it's not by any means a freshly molded finish. You're not going to have that, but you are going to have a functional part. And of course, this is a part that's under the car. I guess if it was in plain sight, I'd care a little bit more, but because it's not, it'd be alright. This is the weld. You get it all on one side, and you think, well, we're done. Nope, not done. Flip it over. Want the weld to be strong? Just go ahead and do it on both sides. Don't waste time. Get her done. And so you know, this is some labor-intensive stuff. You know, the lighting is terrible right here. There we go. Got a little bit of light from the gun. So this is the back side of the crack. Melt a big long stretch. Okay, don't want to go too deep because then you're going to undo what it is you done on the back side. You don't want that to happen. So go a long stretch. Then I come back here. I'm melting across and just sort of patting down. You see that? Just insert it down in there just a little bit and then smooth. Don't go too far because then the stuff that you melted to begin with will, you see those peaks that I'm bringing it up to, they will cool. And then you won't be able to smooth them down into that crack. They won't bond. So, and by the way, I'm not a professional plastic welder. I'm just saying I've done a little bit of this, and by experience and having things crack on me and not getting deep enough penetration through the welds and stuff like that, which, to be honest with you, I think that that's probably what you're going to end up having to do if you ever do plastic welding, is do it just by trial and error. And eventually you'll figure out, hey, this works, that don't work, you know. And from that, all right, there we go. So we're at the end of that crack. No, we're not. There's something. Let's do it right there. All right, keep on going. Just had a good enough seam on that one part of the crack to where I thought it was done, and it wasn't. It's okay. Now this right here, you can let it cool down behind it. You're not worried about that. It's okay, because you're going to come back and reheat it. Now, obviously, you see the smoke and stuff coming off of this. All right. Anytime that you're going to be doing any kind of welding, even metal welding, the more that you heat it up, and you know the specific conditions and things, a lot of times the harder that it's going to be, or the more brittle, let's say it that way, the more brittle it's going to be. But in plastic's case, though, it's for a different reason. It's because you're actually, the smoke that's coming off of this means that this plastic is off-gassing. It's losing some of the element that allows it to have its flexibility. So yes, the weld area in anything that you plastic weld is going to be more brittle, unless of course you're using filler material and putting new back in the place of it, in which case would be okay. But from what I'm doing here, this is just a part that's up underneath the car, and you know, if it breaks later on, then it breaks later on. But rather than having to buy filler material to put in here and worry with all that stuff, this right here is giving me really a good result. And so I'm just going to stick with this. Alright, here it is, finished product. Check out the welds. They may not be pretty. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for functionality. Now there was a part right here that split out, you know, and I really nothing much I can do about that. But I welded the area in behind it. Alright, I'm back here. Check out these welds. Very, very good. And it may not be as good as new, but it is definitely better than what it was. That is what you shoot for in these types of scenarios. Not necessarily new, but better than before. It's installed by 9 screws. I believe they are either a 6 or 7 millimeter. I think they're 7 millimeter head. Now, I have worked on assembly line before, and let me just give you some pointers whenever it comes to installing these little pieces of plastic. All right, you see this piece right here. This is in the front. I know this is really close up, but the car is really low, so forgive me. But you insert it in here in the front, and these little plastic tabs are here that hold it in position. All right, and then you can come back to the back, and then you can line up your holes. Yeah, well, you can see that. I don't know where you can see that through that hole right there. There is that's where the screw goes up through, and I've already got it aligned. Got it aligned right there. And just stick a screw in it. All right, I got a screw in that hole that I was just telling you about, and notice my hand right here. Hand is completely, because I'm holding the phone with the other hand, I'm not having to hold this up anymore because it is already holding itself up by the tabs in the front and then the screw in the back. Now I can, at my leisure, realign everything, get it right where it needs to be. There we go. All right, that's matching up with the body lines. Now I can put the rest of the screw in. Another thing that helps in doing jobs like this is to have a electric gun. Believe it or not, you'd be surprised how much these things are used in the assembly process from factories. Have these little nut drivers you can get from Harbor Freight. I love them. All right, there she is, fully installed, and she ain't flopping around no more. Ain't got that great big crack rather that we got to worry about anymore. And from the front of the car, you may not be able to tell the difference at all. I love it. I love it. Good results.